what is the role of HR? What do you want from HR as a business leader?
Yeah, for me, it was about implementing strategy. I think so often we use HR as the cleanup police. We use HR as sort of brought into a situation to get us out of a spot, or to try to deal with underperformance, or to deal with hygiene matters. And for me, HR, if companies talk about their people being their secret asset, or their culture being something that propels them to 20% better performance than their peer group, then HR have to be involved in all of those decisions and setting those norms, trying to bring those norms to life. The challenge is very often the way that HR is treated is often it's not given the seat as the most important voice in the room. It's given the final say on logistics.
Yeah. And
that is a fundamental difference for me. When the best relationships I've had with HR is when they've been in the room when we've been designing strategy. They've been in the room when we've been thinking about what we needed in the next cohort of people we were going to hire.
So they're involved in creating a strategy rather than just delivering the people element of it.
And what you generally find is that with HR professionals, firstly, when you give them that opportunity, they often jump at it. But so often they've never been afforded that position.
No, it's a challenge.
And that's the interesting thing. So what you often find, and I've observed, is that quite often you can bring people who've been in that disempowered HR world into an environment where you're trying to use them systematically to build something. And they often go back to sort of previous patterns of behaviour, and a couple of organisations I've worked in. I worked in a magazine publishing business before, where HR was very much top table. Chief exec would work with it was styled as head of culture at the time, people and culture at the time, but the relationship there was night and day compared to when one of my in between jobs. Really, really instructive for me. It helped inform my own take. And when I was thinking of what's the best relationship that I want, I found that when we brought our HR professional, our HR leader, a brilliant woman called Caro, when we brought her on the strategy sessions, not only was it a voice in the room that made us honest about some of the things that we were suggesting, but also just meant that there wasn't that gap between strategy and execution. There wasn't that dissonance where what we're trying to do was just not remotely matched to the people that we had.
So I think you alluded to some of it in your previous answer. From a business leader perspective, what are some of the skills that HR needs to develop to have more impact in the business and actually, as you say, help devise and strategy rather than just implement it?
Just business sense, so business acumen. I think the most critical thing for me is a directness and a transparency. It is a psychological safety, but the HR professional, more than anyone, needs to be the person who has to tell you this is not working, or something's gone wrong. If there's not that fully permeable relationship where everything is transparent and everything is up for discussion, I think that's where it goes wrong. We had a couple of cultural issues in different countries, and they always came from a bit of behaviour that was being observed that someone didn't want to flag because they were worried that if they flagged it, it would have repercussions on them as much as anything. And whenever we had that business, the full business understanding combined with direct, transparent communication, it was always the best. HR professional, more than anyone, is the person who, if you do it well, can be your ears on the ground, almost without exception. Every team at the entry level, the team will be presented with trying to deal with the realities of management decisions that don't make sense at the customer level. Yeah. So, they're out there, they've been given a message, the people they're dealing with, it might be press, members of the media, it might be sales partners, it might be whoever it is, there's a recognition that there's been bad decisions made up the chain. And HR, more than anyone, is this function that will help you bring that level of understanding that exists at your lowest level of the hierarchy, to use that sort of hierarchical nature, but bring that level of understanding to the top. And you can only work when there's honesty.
Particularly when I guess they bring data to the table as well, which again, as you probably know from listening to some of the podcasts, has been a challenge for the function in the past.
Yeah, very much so. I think, more than, we sort of, I've worked in organisations that are obsessed about data and obsessed about...
You mentioned at least one of them.
Where, everything is about, unless you can bring data, it's not a discussion, it's not going to be something that we even debate. Where you can bring data, I think it's critical. One of the things, evidently, is that you can't bring data to every situation, especially in HR. And that shouldn't be the barrier to you not discussing very important issues, I think.
Of course. In this series, we will be speaking to a range of senior leaders who are pushing a data-driven and digital HR agenda. Make sure that you subscribe via your podcast app of choice and also via our YouTube channel for free and regular interviews with the digital HR leaders of the future.